fog over the Carpathians. Millions of years, it embraces them with its light down, rocks on the tops of spruces, calls up dreams on village houses, hangs out drops of dew on leaves of daffodils and spider webs, washes itself in a mountain streams, leaving on the water transparent milk bubbles, resists rays of car headlights, sometimes arguing with the sun not to hurry waking the mountains, in order not to issue prematurely all the secrets that are hidden in the treasures of powerful and magical Carpathians. From the first appearance among these unlimited and powerful spaces, people are trying to earn the love and trust of the Carpathians, to live in harmony with them, to become their integral part. However, ages pass, generations and nations pass into nothingness, and the Carpathians, as if testing us, take the time to reciprocate. Like a fairy beauty, they offer us to crack every one of their secrets and mysteries. The glorious city of Uzhhorod, as well as no less glorious city of Rome, is located on 7 hills. Such is the analogy. On one of the hills, in the former village of Horane and now the eponymous district of the city, among orchards and vineyards, is the village stone church, quite far from the architectural ideal. But the so-called Gorianska Rotonda is one of the most remarkable architectural monuments, at least in Europe. And there are so many secrets and mysteries that will be enough for many generations of archaeologists, art experts, historians, and researchers. Let's start from the time closer to the present. So, on the 17th of May 1959, in this church took place the usual Sunday liturgy. According to eyewitnesses, there were many people in the church, more than 50. Outside the church just began usual May thunderstorm, and then, as remembers Mrs. Anna, sounded a thunderclap of terrible power. When she went outside, she saw trees almost pressed by the wind to the ground and lightning of incredible size, in shape like a broom that flashed from the side of church and disappeared behind gardens. And after a few minutes, frightened sister entered the house. Lightning hit the church. Unfortunately, such incidents occur quite frequently, but this case most likely refers to the so-called ball lightning. People told us that lightning broke the window in the tower, flew through central passage, made a semicircle round the throne on the altar, and through the side window left the church, killing 6 parishioners. 3 women and 3 men. Near the door was praying woman holding in her hands baby wrapped in down pillows. The woman died, and baby remained alive. Villagers say pillow has saved. She still lives here in Horane. Mrs. Anna in this terrible tragedy had lost her father. Of course, scientists have tried to investigate this anomaly, but we're a time of Soviet Union. We only know that the church was closed and the men in civilian clothes for a long time have worked here behind closed doors. It is unknown whether they were builders or archaeologists or someone else. Later, there was a museum in the church, and only after 30 years, old temple was returned to Greek Catholic community of the village. People say that they were looking secretly for treasures. Is it true or not, we don't know, but the reason for such theory is. The question is that the scientific community has not yet found out who, when, and for what purpose have built this church. However, most researchers believe that it appeared in the mid-12th or early 13th centuries. According to the candidate of historical sciences Joseph Koebel, the church was built by spiritual knightly order of Joannists that settled in Hungary after the Second Crusade. Primarily, it was a round building that is, in fact, rotunda. Actually, the right hexagon, consisting of 6 semicircular niches of apsidal shape and narrow elongated windows. At the top is hexagonal space that is performed in spherical dome. There are only 3 structures of this type in Europe. In addition to Gorianska Rotonda, there are 2 located in Hungarian towns. They also have been sizably influenced by Byzantine style and were built not of stone but of bricks. As always, the absence of facts gives rise to many conjectures. So, there is a version that the rotunda was built as a tomb, and in it was buried legendary Slavic prince Laborec. The ruins of the walls on the hill just above give reason to believe that there has been a fortification of Unhvar castle that was built on the order of the Hungarian king Pál IV, and rotunda was a chapel. Massive wall thickness of which reaches 2.5 meters, narrow windows led to suggest that the rotunda could serve as a defense facility. The form of building is hexagonal. It is known to the hectogram ancient astral symbol had spread from Mesopotamia to the Jews, where it became a symbol of God, Yahweh, and then inherited by the Christian Middle Ages and symbolized supernatural powers of the sun, light, immortality, and eternity. It is quite possible that the scaring away of dark supernatural forces was taken by medieval craftsmen as a basis for functional purpose of rotunda. And the local residents will be happy to tell you a story about a tunnel that leads from the church to the Uzhgorod castle. We have not told yet that a rectangular Gothic nave was constructed in 14th-15th century. But it is necessary to return to the event of 1879, whereby the rotunda eventually became known throughout the world. And it was so. In the church of St. Anne, patroness of rotunda, repairs were carried out. Builders have noticed that out of plaster, one after another began to appear colored fresco paintings. And soon, the Temporary Commission on Protection of Monuments of History and Culture has made a declaration about the discovery of fresco paintings of Horiani of 14th-15th century. Conch walls, which in Greek means a sink, covered with one continuous picture, depicting scenes from the life of the Savior. The paintings are of 3 layers. that however logically flows into the second layer and then in a hemispherical conclusion. Wavy conch structure enables the artist to bring closer or move away one or another story from the viewer. The semicircular arches and spherical dome create around you a unique universe. If you carefully follow the logic of fresco scenes in some moment, you will feel yourself directly involved in this endless action. Looking at the fresco painting standing in the middle of the hexagon, you can involuntarily feel yourself a center for the development of these tragic events. You absorb the feelings of real people depicted on the fresco paintings. Perhaps the image of real human emotions on the frescoes, presence of impressive dramatic story gave experts ground to suggest that the frescoes were performed by professional artists, representatives of Proto-Renaissance. Notice how skillfully was reproduced the story of fresco Escapato Egypt. Full of obedience, loving look of mother, of God covering mouth of a little Jesus, donkey pulling off whereof Joseph, not to hurry, leave their homeland, and finally stretched hand of Joseph to his pleading eyes. I must hurry, because the servants of Herod are not far. Here is a fresco with the story of the agony in the garden, sleeping apostles, prayer of Jesus and finger of God, the Annunciation Day, adoration of Magi. In this case, three kings symbolizing youth, maturity, and wisdom give a baby gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Scene of the Last Supper, full of sadness eyes of Jesus and confused apostles. Hands, postures, looks like saying, "Is it I, Lord?" Mastery and perfect knowledge of their work indicate highly skilled artists. Work of professionals of such high level was expensive. Historians have made a logical assumption. Artists were invited by Master Furhorod, feudal magnate Druget, who had a palace in Horiane. The frescoes in the nave are made in later period. These images are striking confirmation of the thesis that icon is gospel for the illiterate. Have a look at them. Story of the Annunciation is depicted accessibly, figuratively, perhaps a bit childly. How differently and carefully drawn images of people under the protection of the Mother of God. Again, a bit naive but happily solemn reproduction of the grand story of the adoration of the Magi. Full of restless sadness and suffering, crucifixion with bystanders. Probably it's not hard to guess that the names of the artists who wrought frescoes and names of nave decorators remained unknown, as well as the history of an ancient settlement near the Rotunda. Remained unknown also the purpose of the cavity under the altar and the history about the mysterious mythical governess of Gorianska beauty, Gragisa. On one of the hills of the glorious city of Uzhhorod, among the gardens and vineyards surrounded by old lime trees, stays on its service one of the ancient mysteries of the Carpathians.